Okay, friends, let's begin the session. I hope all of you are doing it well. Okay, so all of you have already received the PDF I have prepared for April to September current banking issues. I think it is useful for all of you. The way I have prepared it, I think it is going to be useful for all of you. Okay, so you can give. Okay, great. Thank you, Manish. Okay. And you can find the difference how much unnecessary elements I have just eliminated. You can find it out. Okay, so let's begin this session. RBI circular G September 2020, because this is a segment where most of the questions come, and this is the only Bible. In free times, I recommend my students to go to the RBI master circulars and find out what are the updates from Reserve Bank of India. Nothing beyond Reserve Bank of India master circular is asked in examinations. Okay, so almost everything is covered in RBI master circulars. They give directions to each and every issue. Okay, there are some practices banks in India follow that is related to IBA, but all of these, the guidelines from IBA, also Indian Banks Association, the guidelines apart from this wage talks, they also issue some guidelines. IBA issue some guidelines to bank regarding the practice. Okay, but still RBI also reaffirms which guidelines of IBA needs to be followed or not. Okay, so we will look into the master circulars in this session and updates from Reserve Bank of India. Any update from Reserve Bank of India is going to be a current affairs banking questions. Okay, because nowadays the style of asking questions have changed, so you need to prepare accordingly. There is some update regarding SLR holding. Okay, currently banks are permitted to exceed the limit of 25% of their total investments under held to maturity category, provided the excess comprises only SLR securities and total SLR securities held under HTM category is not more than 19.5% of NDTL as on last Friday of this second preceding fortnight. Okay, तो होता क्या है एनडीटीएल में, सॉरी एसएलआर में जो सिक्योरिटीज बैंक्स होल्ड करते हैं उसमें हेल्ड टू मैच्योरिटी का कैटेगरी होता है, जिसमें आप 25% से ज्यादा आपको रखना पड़ता है. ठीक है, तो अभी क्या किया गया है कि उसको 19.5% ऑफ एनडीटीएल किया गया है एचटीएम कैटेगरी में. उस 19.5% से ज्यादा नहीं रख सकते. हेल्ड टू मैच्योरिटी मतलब they are going to keep SLR government securities till the maturity occurs. ठीक है, प्री मैच्योर क्लोजर नहीं कर सकते. These securities need to be keep held to maturity till maturity period expires. Okay, are you getting it? It's a normal update. There is nothing much about it, but there is some current issues. Hence, I have placed it in the PDF. Net demand and time liabilities. I think I have already I have already discussed this in our last class. In NDTL, what happens? Demand liabilities, I think you know, CASA deposit, current account and savings account deposit that lies in current account, which is withdrawable on demand. ठीक है, जो पैसा कासा में रखा जाता है वो कस्टमर जब भी चाहे. ओके, Manish is clarifying about net demand and time liabilities. तो जो डिपॉजिट कासा में रहता है, द डिपॉजिट दैट आर इन करेंट अकाउंट एंड सेविंग्स अकाउंट, दे आर विड्रॉएबल ऑन डिमांड. कस्टमर जब डिमांड करेगा वो पैसा ले सकता है, इसलिए उसको डिमांड डिपॉजिट कहा जाता है. टाइम डिपॉजिट क्या होता है? व्हाट इज टाइम डिपॉजिट? द मनी दैट इज लाइंग इन एफडी एंड आरडी अकाउंट्स. ओके, दैट इज विड्रॉएबल ऑन ए यस दैट इज विड्रॉएबल आफ्टर एक्सपायरी ऑफ ए सर्टन पीरियड. आप जब एफडी करते हो, ठीक है, वो उसमें आप 1 साल के लिए करते हो, 2 साल के लिए करते हो, तो ये टाइम डिपॉजिट होता है. आर यू गेटिंग इट? तो बैंक का जो टोटल डिमांड एंड टाइम लाइबिलिटीज है, टाइम और टोटल एफडी आरडी कासा डिपॉजिट है, वो हुआ टोटल डिमांड एंड टाइम लाइबिलिटीज. नेट क्या होता है? बैंक्स का जो खुद का टाइम एंड डिमांड लाइबिलिटीज है, बैंक्स जो पैसा किसी दूसरे बैंक में रखा हुआ है, डिमांड एंड टाइम लाइबिलिटीज के आकार में उसको माइनस कर दिया जाता है। जो बचता है वो नेट डिमांड एंड टाइम लाइबिलिटीज होता है, NDTL। ओके, yeah, banks won't saving in other banks, right? Madhu is right. Okay, are you getting it? Yes, it's correct. Yes, it's correct. Yes, it's correct. Okay, are you getting it? Any other doubt? Any other doubt? नेट डिमांड टाइम लाइबिलिटीज हो गया, कुछ नहीं है। टोटल सेविंग्स, yes, yes, yes. Okay. On a review, it has been decided to allow banks to hold HTM category SLR securities acquired on or after September 1st, 2020 up to an overall limit of 22% of NDTL up to March 31st, 2021, which shall reviewed thereafter. जो 19.5% NDTL का होता था वो अभी 22% होगा। ठीक है, समझ गए? 25% से ज्यादा एक्सीड करने का पहले रिवाज था। देयर वाज अ रूल दैट इट शुड एक्सीड 25% ऑफ टोटल SLR कैटेगरी, उसमें हेल्ड टू मैच्योरिटी वाला जो बॉन्ड है, जो मैच्योरिटी तक बैंक को रखना है अपने पास, वो 25% से ज्यादा था। ठीक है, एंड जो एक्सेस है वो अपने वो SLR का NDTL का 19.5% होना चाहिए। ठीक है, वो 19.5% अभी रिवाइज्ड होके क्या हुआ, 22% हो गया, राइट? दैट 19.5% is now revised to 22%. Is it okay? Is it okay now? This is a small update. Yes, teach in English. I cannot understand Hindi properly. I am sorry. No issue. There is nothing to be sorry. I am trying my best to teach in English because I will have a separate class for Hindi students. I am planning, if I will have some minimum threshold number of people, I will have separate class for them. But questions are going to be asked. Yes, no issue, no issue. I think I'm just mixing up few English, few Hindi words, so wherever it is required. But my classes will normally be in English because you are going to be asked questions in English in interview board. Okay, in PSU bank they will ask questions in English. So I am trying to be as simple as possible in my English vocabulary. Okay, yes. So my request, my personal request is all of you to understand simple English. Yes, yes, Manish. So my personal request to all of you to understand simple English, because they are going to ask you questions in simple English. But if you want it in Hindi, I'm okay to tell you, but I will prefer English and I will force my students to understand it so that they could answer it. Okay. Okay. So there is a little change in LFAR. Okay. What is LFAR? Can anyone tell me? LFAR. Yes, Manish have faced interview lots of times. Okay. Okay. Manish is recently appeared one of lateral entry exams. He was having his interview. The questions we have discussed, almost 90% questions were from this range. One of my we have discussion prior to his interview, and most of the questions which we discussed were there featured in his interview. Okay, so I think in coming days Manish will guide us better, that he has recently appeared a credit manager's interview. Okay, am I right, Manish? So yeah, this is long form audit report. Yes, yes, Manish. Okay, thank you, Manish. Okay, so and okay, let's go ahead. The format LFAR, long form audit form. This is audit form which is required by, yes, which is required to be audited. In this format, banks are audited in India. So there is a little change. There is annexure 1 that is about statutory central auditors, annexure 2 about branch auditors. Okay, an appendix as part of annexure 2 for specialized branches. Okay, and annexure 3 about large irregular critical accounts for branch auditors. This is bit lengthy, but risk managers people should note this, because in risk management, audit is a part of risk mitigation. So you need to have this type of questions in your mind, because LFAR is a question normally asked in CIAB exams. So you need to have some understanding about LFAR. Okay, what is the objective of LFAR? The overall objective of a long form audit report should be to identify and assess the gaps and vulnerable areas in the business operations, risk management. I was talking about risk management, compliance, and the efficacy of internal audit, and provide an independent opinion on the same to the board of the bank and provide their observations. Have you got it? LFAR or long form audit report is required to assess the gaps, to find out where there is a gap, where there are loopholes, where bank is lacking behind, where there are issues, where there is risk pertains, where there is deficiencies in terms of risk and compliance, and is the internal audit doing well or not, what are the changes required to be done. Yes, compliance and operational risk, very good, very good. Okay, so these are done there. Okay, independent opinion, and it provides an independent opinion to the bank's board. Okay, so the coverage of long form audit report by statutory central auditors is what are the areas that long form audit report cover: credit risk, market risk, governance, assurance functions, and operational risk areas, capital adequacy, going concern, and liquidity risk assessment. Going concern means in case there is a failure, that how bank will keep on functioning, that is going concern. Okay, and liquidity risk assessment, information systems, and other matters. Why I am putting all these circulars for you? So that you will have a fair idea. In a way, you will have questions will come from this. Okay, because this is not only current banking issue but also static banking issues. These are the static banking issues. LFR you must be knowing. I think it is new for many of you. Maybe it is new for many of you. So these things are covered in my syllabus only because you should have an idea how banks function, what happens when audit happens, what are the back office operations done in a bank, because you people have faced or have seen banks in from the front line, but there are many things, many tasks being performed in back office. Okay, and this is also basic knowledge. Yes. Okay, so there is now a new provision of chief compliance officer that they need to be recruited by banks. Though you will not meet the eligibility to be a chief compliance officer like ombudsman, this chief compliance officer is going to be a vital post for the banks in coming days. So there are questions will be asked, who can be a chief compliance officer? I think many of you who have appeared exams in recent days are being asked about questions. What is the eligibility of a banking ombudsman or eligibility of internal ombudsman? Yes, this is now mandatory for banks. Okay, so questions are coming from this type of subjects. You can find the difference, and those who are appearing my classes, let me assure you that those who have subscribed to other crash courses of reputed channels were lamenting today, were repenting today in my telegram group that they don't have even banking exposure, and they are just detecting, they don't know what type of questions is going to be asked. So this is the basic difference of non-bankers teaching banking, especially for lateral entry segment, because they don't know what is the current banking issues and what bankers talk about, think about the issues that are there. Okay, so welcome Madhu. So now there is a new position, that is Chief Compliance Officer. As part of a robust compliance systems, banks are required inter alia to have an effective compliance culture. This is all about philosophy of why this Chief Compliance Officer is going to be recruited. Independent corporate compliance functions and a strong compliance risk management program at a bank at the group level. This is important for CBO people and for risk managers especially, because this chief compliance officer will directly deal with the risks. Okay, so even in interview they will ask you. Yes. Mm. Hi, for all exams, Okay, but they in interviews they may ask you, because this is a recent update, why there are so many officers in the bank, then why this chief compliance officer is required to be recruited by the bank, and who could be a chief compliance officer. So you need to have the basics understood. No, CCO is not yet applicable to RRB, because I have already told you this chief compliance officer of sponsor bank will also deal with RRB functions. Okay, he will deal with RRB functions. Maybe it will be implemented very soon. Don't worry. So many functions of RRB is being done by the sponsored bank. Even if you cannot say that this RRB will not have a chief compliance officer, the person who is the CCO for the sponsor bank will act as a CCO for RRBs too. Okay. So such an independent compliance function is required to be headed by a designated chief compliance officer selected through suitable process with an appropriate fit and proper evaluation or selection criteria to manage compliance risk effectively. So now I think you could answer why a chief compliance officer is at all required to be recruited. Okay. सो चीफ कंप्लायंस ऑफिसर की दरकार क्यों है, थोड़ा सा हिंदी में बता देता हूँ. इसलिए है कि जो कॉर्पोरेट की कंप्लायंस फंक्शन है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. उसके बिना बैंक को बहुत ज्यादा फाइन हो जाता है, इसीलिए चीफ कंप्लायंस ऑफिसर की दरकार है. बाकी उसकी एलिजिबिलिटी जो है वो तो मैं बता दूंगा, तो अब समझ में आ जाएगा आई गेस फॉर रेस्ट ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स. Why this chief compliance officer is required? Due to inavailability of a chief compliance officer, banks every single alternative day banks fail to comply with many regulatory rules. Okay, you would have seen newspaper articles that so and so bank is being fined for not complying to KYC guidelines, not complying to AML guidelines. Okay, so the fine on banks are becoming huge day by day, and every alternative day some other bank is being fined. Am I right? Have you seen this type of articles? Yes Bank is fined, UCO Bank is fined, SBI is fined for not complying to FEMA guidelines, not complying to KYC guidelines, etc. So they are now, because why it is so? Because remember, banks in India are a highly regulated business. What is this? Banks in India, this could be your interview answers. Banks in India are a highly regulated business. So you need to be alert, you need to be highly professional to deal with banking business. Am I right? Am I right? Your answer should be like this, because banking in India is highly regulated business. Okay, if your simple mistake in doing banking could attract a huge sum of fine by the regulator, and there are not one regulator of banks, there are many regulators, those who regulate banks. Though RBI is the principal regulator, but there are PFRDA, SEBI, IRDA, so many regulations come into picture when you do banking. Okay, there are so many authorities that deal with banking. There are so many authorities that act as regulators like NABARD, DFS, Ministry of Finance, okay, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, even every single organization, those who deal with finances, come into picture when banking business is done in India. So bankers need to be thorough professionals. Bankers need to be thorough professionals. So in order not to attract any further fines, banks need to have a robust compliance process, and to ensure that banks have a robust compliance process, banks need to appoint a chief compliance officer, right? Am I right? So banks should lay down a board approved compliance policy, clearly spelling out the compliance philosophy. Okay, the CCO shall be appointed for a minimum fixed tenure of not less than 3 years. The audit committee of the board, SCB, managing director and CEO should factor this recruitment while appointing CCO. So who should be taken into cognizance, who should be taken into consideration before appointing a CCO? audit committee board, MD, CO, okay, should be referred, should be taken into consideration. Okay, in their knowledge, in their presence, this appointment of CCO should be done. Okay, is it okay? Is it okay? I think these type of facts are useful than others teaching you what are the developments in Ujjivan Small Finance Bank, Suryodaya Small Finance Bank. Okay, so I think we are reading something concrete here. Okay, the CCO may be transferred because if you people are going to read what is an ombudsman, what is the tenor of an ombudsman, we have already read it, we have already class, I have already PDF for that. But if a question maker has to ask a question between banking ombudsman and a CCO, he will definitely prefer to ask about CCO, because many people so far have made questions on banking ombudsman. It is being asked, it is update of 1995, then it is revised in 2002, but the CCO is a latest amendment, it is a hot cake. So definitely anybody can say that CCO is a hot question. So why should not we discuss this type of topics? Okay, the CCO may be transferred, removed before completion of the tenure only in exceptional circumstances with the explicit prior approval of the board after following a well-defined transparent internal administrative procedure. So that means transferring a CCO is difficult process. Normally they are not encouraged to transfer a CCO, okay, or remove a CCO, but in external conditions, even Prime Minister and President of India are removed from their post. Supreme Court judges are removed from their post. So anybody in India can be removed from their post. So what is that procedure to remove Supreme Court judge or Supreme Court Chief Justice or the President of India? Can anyone tell what is the correct word, exact word to remove the President of India from his office? What is that process called in Indian Constitution? Yes, impeachment. Right. Nagarjan K is right. Impeachment motion. They call it impeachment motion. Okay, but it's a difficult one. Nobody is yet removed in India. Okay, there was an impeachment motion against Donald Trump in USA, which was failed. So similarly, removing a CCO from his office is very different, because CCO is one of the like ombudsman. It is going to be one of the independent authority to assess banks' risks. Okay, the CCO shall be a senior executive of the bank, preferably in the rank of a general manager or an equivalent position, not below 2 levels of the CEO. The CCO should also be recruited from market. From market means like you people are going to be recruited in SBI, CBO or PNB. That means he should not be from the same bank. He should be recruited from other banks. Am I right? These type of questions are asked in JIB, CIB exams, also in risk management exams of IIBF. Because okay, I think you people have witnessed this type of questions, those who have appeared exams. And for your help, Manish is in both the groups. You can get the authenticity from Manish is from PNB and SBI CBO in both group. You can take his authenticity and his advice as well. He have recently cracked the exams, I could say, rather. Not more than 55 years. His age should not be more than 55 years, and the CCO shall have an overall experience of at least 15 years in the banking financial service and minimum 5 years experience in specialized sectors like audit, finance, compliance, legal, risk management functions. Okay, so why I am telling you to remember all this, to have an idea at least of all this, because the internal ombudsman, chief compliance officer, these are the posts. Like when you read Indian history, or you could say political science, you are supposed to remember the tenor of a Rajya Sabha MP, Lok Sabha MP. Similarly, these posts are like independent posts. So who could be a person, who could be a chief compliance officer, and what is his eligibility is important. ओके am I जहाँ पे किसी को दिक्कत हो रहा है ही कैन टेल मी टू कॉन्टेम्पलेट इन हिंदी. मैं हिंदी में भी पढ़ा सकता हूँ, मगर ट्राई नॉट टू यूज हिंदी व्हेन बिकॉज क्वेश्चंस आर जनरली आस्क्ड इन इंग्लिश. सो मगर कहीं पे बहुत ज़्यादा दिक्कत हो रहा है तो यू कैन से. सम ऑफ यू वर टेलिंग मी हिंदी इंग्लिश समझने में दिक्कत आ रही है, मगर मैं तो उतना ज़्यादा अच्छा इंग्लिश नहीं बोलता, तो समझने में क्या दिक्कत है. I don't speak that difficult English like Shashi Tharoor do, so I don't think that you will be having difficulties. Okay, so there is another circular regarding asset classification. Asset classification में ये जो circular है, this circular about asset classification says that this asset classification and the prudential norms of NPA management should be done through an electronic process, should be computerized. No manual intervention should be done when classifying the assets. Okay, that will make the process more robust. In order to ensure the completeness and integrity of the automated asset classification, that means the classification of advances, investment as NPA, NPI, and their upgradation, provisioning, calculation, and income recognition process, banks advised to put in place, upgrade their systems to conform to the following guidelines latest by June 30, 2021. तो ये एसेट क्लासिफिकेशन होता क्या है? व्हाट इज एसेट क्लासिफिकेशन? when a loan is taken up to 90 days, it remain, if it is the payment, the principal and interest is delayed up to 90 days, it remains in standard asset. Even in standard asset there is SMA 0, SMA 1, SMA 2 classification. I think all of you knowing it. If you don't know, you can ask me. And after 90 days it flows to NPA, and then it becomes substandard asset. Then substandard asset is turned to doubtful asset after 1 year, and then it becomes loss asset after one asset is classified as doubtful and is written off by an auditor. After 2 years it is also classified as loss asset. Okay, so this classification should be done through computer system. Okay, computerized asset classification. Yes, this is computerized asset classification, or you can say asset classification, electronic asset classification. All borrower accounts, that means all loan accounts. Sir, we have verified with the bureau report not showing SMA 1, SMA 0. Oh, I didn't get you. What was the question? What was you asking? SMA 1, SMA 0 was not showing with CIBIL. What is that? All borrower accounts, that means all loans account, irrespective of the size, irrespective of the sector, type of limits, everything should be automated, should be covered in an automated IT based system for asset classification. Is it okay? So this is all about asset classification. Okay. Basis of DPD we can judge. Yes, delay payment due payment delay. Okay. An addition, income recognition or derecognition in case of impaired assets in NPAs shall be system driven and automated, required to be revised from the income accounts. Okay. Yes. Okay. After SMA it is showing substandard. Yes, it will show substandard or DBT. Okay. Doubtful. Impaired assets. Listen. What is income recognition? In which assets there are income is coming or not is recognized. Okay, that is income recognition. So the system shall handle both downgrade and upgrade of the account through straight through process, that is STP, without any manual intervention. The frequency should be on an ongoing basis, and it should be done at the day end of every day end it will be done. And this IRAC issues, IRAC norms, income recognition and asset classification norms shall be subject to conditions as explained below. What is the okay? I have not mentioned what are the conditions of making it IRAC, so I think that was not important. The important is exception may be granted for the system driven classification in certain circumstances, like the circumstances we are facing now, that is COVID-19. Okay, the assets that were classified as standard asset before March 31st are continues to enjoy the standard status. So the exception may be granted depending upon situations. Okay. Section 51A of UAPA. This is not to be remembered, but you should know that there is something called UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. That is an act passed in 1967. This is a global act. Okay. In terms of which regulated entities. What is regulated entities? Can anyone tell what is regulated entities? Here it is mentioned regulated entity. What is regulated entity? What is a regulated entity? Can anyone say it? Can anyone say it? Can anyone tell me what is a regulated entity? No. That they are regulators. They are regulators. RBI, SEBI's regulators are regulators. Regulated entities, yes, banks, NBFCs, those who are regulated, those institutions that are regulated by regulatories are regulated entities. That means what is UAPA? Whenever there will be there will be notification regarding 15A of UAPA, that means they will list some terrorist organization, terrorist outfits, okay, and funding to these institutions should be immediately banned. Okay, this is this United Nations designated terrorist outfits are banned. This is to check this terrorism funding. Okay, so I just mentioned it just to tell you about Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. This is not going to be a question which entities are banned nowadays, because they keep on banning organizations, but under which law it is banned, it is important. Okay, you just even if I don't take your classes, if you are reading some news articles, try to find out what could be a possible questions. And if there is a recent news, okay, they will in question itself, they will place this news article. Okay, they will talk about this news article itself, but the question will be linked to the basics of that, basics and laws of that topic. Okay, so they will say that under UAPA on recently Reserve Bank of India banned Lashkar-e-Toiba fundings to Lashkar-e-Toiba. Under which act this is banned? So that means they were referring to a current issue, but they are really asking a question that is a static banking issue. Okay, so questions are nowadays being asked like this. This is to assess your level of understanding. Okay, so in this under this UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act 1967, few organizations, few outfits were banned. No need to remember the name of the organizations. These are terrorist organizations, and they don't want you to remember the terrorist names. This the second update is about Exim Bank has entered into an agreement for the government of Republic of Malawi for making available a letter of credit of 215.68 million. No need to remember the figure, but Exim Bank has extended an LOC to Republic of Malawi. What is that? Malawi. Okay. Okay, the Ministry of Rural Development, okay, the master circular, this is a master circular. Till now we're discussing about few notifications, and this is a master circular regarding day NRLM. Okay, I think the master circular is you will be knowing it. Normal notifications are the notifications, and master circulars are the detailed guidelines issued for detailed guideline issued for some banking activities. Okay, the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India launched National Rural Livelihood Mission (NRLM) by restructuring Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarajgar Yojana. Okay, these are the questions, because nowadays many questions are being asked about government sponsored schemes. Okay, so because this deals with financial inclusion, rural development, and banking in India is less commercial activity and more social activity. Okay, banking in public sector banks, PSU banks, is more commercial activities. Okay, so the NRLM was renamed as Day NRLM, Din Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Rural Livelihood Mission. This Day NRLM is the flagship program of Government of India for promoting poverty reduction through building strong institutions of the poor, particularly women, and enabling these institutions to access a range of financial services and livelihood. This is the philosophy why this Day NRLM. But now I think you know who has launched Day NRLM. Ministry of Rural Development of Government of India. And to launch NRLM, what they have restructured? They restructured this Congress government's Swarna Jayanti Gram Swaraj Yojana. Okay, sorry, the NRLM was launched also in the time of Congress government. It is in 2013, but the Day NRLM, that is Din Dayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihood Mission, is under NDA government. Okay. So the women SHGs under Day NRLM consist of 10 to 20%. So this is normal SHG, but somewhere it could be 5% depending upon the hardship of the place, hardship of creating groups. Okay. So in self-help groups, normally 20 people are there in a self-help group. Okay. So Day NRLM MORD would provide revolving fund to support self-help groups in existence for a minimum period of 3 to 6 months and follow the norms of good SHGs. And to find out what is a good self-help group, that SHG need to follow the Panchasutra Yojana, the 5 principles, that is regular meetings, regular savings, regular internal lending, regular recoveries, and maintenance of proper books of accounts. Okay, I think you will be knowing this rural banking concepts. This Day NRLM is a rural banking concepts, but as a banker you should be knowing it. This is a part of credit management also, and this is a part of normal banking professional knowledge also. Okay, because many questions in professional knowledge are now being asked from government sponsored scheme. If someone have attended a recent exam, can verify my authenticity. Okay, so what happens in a Day NRLM? Day NRLM, through Day NRLM scheme, Government of India, this Ministry of Rural Development provides a fund to SHGs, that is for 3 to 6 months. To whom? To good SHGs. To how to define a SHG is good or not, a self-help group is good or not? They should follow 5 principles, that is called Panchasutra. That is for the group initially. Okay, so that is for the group. So the Panchasutra, what is the Panchasutra? They may ask it in interviews also. If you have dealt with a rural bank or a small branch of a bank, I think you may be knowing if SHG, because it is their main parameters of financial inclusion. So for a successful self-help group, there should be regular meetings being conducted. They should save regularly. They should have a regular internal lending. That means they should lend each other regularly. There are regular recoveries. Those who have taken a loan from that SHG should be recovered regularly, and they should maintain the register, the meeting register and all other accounts register regularly. That is the Panchasutra. Okay, this is a hot question. This is a basic banking question. Only SHGs that have not received any RF earlier would be provided with new revolving fund as corpus with a minimum 10,000 and up to maximum 15,000 per SHG. Okay, 10 to 15,000 all SHGs will get. Okay, for fresh group it will be 10,000. Yes, definitely. No capital subsidy would be sanctioned to SHGs. There will be no capital subsidy. Only interest subsidy will be provided. In all the government schemes, there are only interest subsidies provided. Remember, there are no capital subsidies. Okay. Community Investment Support Fund, that is CIF, Community Investment Support Fund, would be provided by MORD to SHGs to promote under Day NRLM in all blocks. Okay, Day NRLM has a provision of interest subvention to cover the difference between the lending rate of the banks and 7% on all credit form of the banks, financial institutions are held by women SHGs. for a maximum of rupees 3 lakh per SHG. This would be available across the country in two ways. I will be discussing the two ways. So remember, normally banks give loans to SHGs at 11.5% or 12% rate of interest. So what will happen? That government will say the rate for them is 7%. So if you are providing them a loan at 11.5%, then that difference of 7% and that 11.5%, that means this 4.5%, whatever amount will be there, if whatever accumulate amount will be there, that subsidy will be provided to the SHG. Okay, are you getting it? Are you getting it? What will happen through day NRLM? The rate of interest on which banks will fund the SHGs, women SHGs, and 7%. The difference amount, okay, that extra interest whatever will be there, that will be credited back to the SHG's account. Okay. So what are the two ways? In 250 identified districts, there are two methods. There are some identified districts, there are critical districts. The rule is different for these 250 districts, and the rule is different for rest of the districts. Then how many districts are there in India? How many districts, total districts are there in India? So, okay, 650, right? This is around 650. Yes, thank you. Thanks for the update. So this in 250 districts, they will lend to the women SHGs at 7% up to an aggregated loan amount of 3 lakh. The banks would be subvented to the extent of difference between the weighted average interest rate and 7%, subject to maximum limit of 5.5%. An additional interest subvention of 3% is also available on prompt repayment by SHGs, reducing the effect rate of interest to 4%. Okay, so remember, in 250 districts, what they will do, they will give loans to SHGs at 7%. Okay, but the average interest rate for bank loans of that particular bank is say 10%. So that difference 3% amount will be credited to the bank's account, because they will outrightly fund at 7%. So there is no need to refund it to the SHG's account, but that refund will be provided to the banks, and that maximum difference could be 5.5%, not more than that. Okay, and if that self-help group will have prompt repayment, if they will repay the loan on due date, then they will get additional 3% interest subvention. That means now the effective rate of the loan will become 4%. Okay, it will not applicable to the defaulters. Okay, in the remaining districts, the banks may lend their respective lending rates applicable to SHGs. In these districts, all women SHGs under day NRLM would be eligible interest subvention on prompt repayment. The difference between banks lending rates and 7% of loans for loans up to rupees 3 lakh, subject to maximum 5.5%, will be subvented directly to the loan account of the SHGs by SRLMH. By SRLM means State Rural Livelihood Mission. Okay, so the State Rural Livelihood Mission will directly credit the difference to the SHG's account. Are you getting it? In past 250 districts, the interest subvention will be credited to the bank's account, and in rest 400 districts, the interest subvention will be credited to the SHG's account. Are you getting it? Are you getting it? Banks may not insist on permanent account number of SHGs at the time of opening of account or transactions, and may accept declaration in form number 60 as may be required. So PAN card is not mandatory in day NRLM scheme. It is advised that all banks may use common loan application forms that is recommended by IBA for extending the credit facility to SHGs. SHGs may avail either term loan or cash credit loan, or both, based on their need. If they are going to take a cash credit loan, in case of cash credit loan, banks are advised to sanction minimum loan of rupees 6 lakh to each eligible self-help groups for a period of 3 years with a yearly drawing power. The drawing power may be enhanced annually based on the repayment performance of the SHGs, and the drawing power may be calculated as follows. I think you will be knowing how the drawing power is calculated in a cash credit account, cash credit loan. Okay, cash credit is like a working capital loan. Then, and the minimum loan under cash credit should be 6 lakh for day in RLM scheme. Okay, and this drawing power in normal cases, drawing power is calculated as per the stock limit. Okay, but here there are some categories to assess this drawing power limit. For past year, 6 times of the existing corpus of minimum rupees 1 lakh, whichever is higher. Okay, so this corpus, where you find the corpus of the SHGs, that will that is lying in their account. Okay, they will have their internal funding, or they have taken money as an assistance from the government. If they have an 1 lakh of total corpus, total net worth of that SHG, then 6 times of that existing corpus for the past year. Okay, up to 3 to 6 months. Okay, that initial funding, that initial revolving fund, that is 10,000 or 15,000, which is provided. Okay, 3 to 6 months, depending upon the schemes that is enrolled by state livelihood missions. Okay, state is free to decide. Let me check what you saying. Revolving fund. Okay, period of 3 to 6 months, and follow the norms of good that revolving fund I was telling you, that first fund that will be provided by MORD. Now we are talking about that is an assistance amount, and now we are talking about the loans that banks are going to provide. First is cash credit limit, then is a term loan, and term CC limit should be 6 lakhs, minimum 6 lakhs for 3 years. And how they set the DP, how they set the drawing power, for the first year it should be 6 times of the total corpus if the corpus is minimum 1 lakh. Okay, DP for the second year is 8 times of the corpus, or at the time of review or enhancement, or minimum rupees 2 lakh, whichever is higher. Okay, so the minimum DP should be 1 lakh or 6 times of the existing corpus. Okay, for second year it should be 8 times or 2 lakhs, whichever is higher. DP for the third year, minimum 6 lakhs, minimum of rupees 6 lakhs, based on the micro credit plan prepared by the self-help group and appraised. Who is providing RF? RF is provided by Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. Okay, so the micro credit plan prepared by SHG and appraised by Federation or Support Agency, and at the previous credit history. DP for the fourth year onwards, it should be above 6 lakhs, based on the micro credit plan prepared by self-help group. Okay, I think you need not go in complete detail, because these are secondary schemes. As a banker, you less if you are posted in a rural branch, normally you have to deal with it. These are the questions that are asked in RRB exam or in JIB CIB exams normally, but questions may come, 1 or 2 questions may come from this type of schemes. Okay, it is important nowadays because there are so many schemes Government of India is sponsoring, and banks are the frontliners, those who formulate, those who make these schemes a great success. So you have to remember how these things are done. You don't need to go into that detail. Okay, term loan. In case of term loan, banks are advised to sanction loan amount in doses as mentioned below. First dose, 6 times of this existing corpus, minimum 1 lakh of loan, whichever is higher. Second dose, 8 times of the existing corpus, or minimum rupees 2 lakh. Third dose, minimum 6 lakh, based on microcredit plan prepared by self-help group and appraised by the banks or the supporting agency. Okay, the government agency, that those who deal with it. The repayment schedule for the term loan should be: first dose of loan may be repaid in 24 to 36 months in monthly or quarterly installments. Second dose of loan may be repaid in 36 to 48 months. Third dose may be repaid in 48 to 60 months. And the rest may be repaid in 60 to 84 months. No collateral or no margin would be required up to 10 lakhs of limit. Okay. Okay. There are some updates regarding Basel III. In a view of continuing stress on accounts of COVID-19, it has been decided to defer the implementation of last tranche of 0.625% of total capital conservation buffer. Okay, from September 30 to April 1st, 2021. This is a short-term notification. Hence, it is not required. But what is required? You must remember that what is how much CCB is decided by Basel III norm for Indian banks. I think it is all same for Indian and global banks. It is 2.5%. So what was the last tranche was pending for Indian banks? That was 0.625%. Okay, they were lack of 0.625% to comply with complete CCB, that is capital conservation buffer of 2.5%, and that time period to implement this limit of CCB is now increased to April 1st, 2021. Okay. The pre-specified trigger for loss observation through conservation or write down of additional tier 1 instruments, that is perpetual non-convertible preference shares and perpetual debt instruments, shall remain 5.5% of risk weighted assets and will rise to 6.125% of RWPA from April 1st, 2021. Okay, it is about risk weighted assets. When this 6.25 will be added, automatically the risk weighted assets will rise to 6.125%. okay, they are currently at 5.5%. that was about perpetual non-convertible preference shares. Non-convertible preference shares are these shares are not converted into regular shares. Okay. In a view of continued uncertainty of COVID-19, the review process has recommended that the RBI's review team has recommended that the NSFR guidelines further extended for a period of 6 months. So the guidelines of NSFR will be implemented from April 1st, 2021. What is NSFR? Net stable funding ratio. Okay. What is net stable funding ratio? The available stable funding versus the required stable funding. It is a guideline of Basel III. It was not implemented with Basel III, but later it was added to Basel III. These are the liquidity requirements. Okay, a bank should have minimum liquidity for 30 days, that is LCR, liquidity coverage ratio, and banks should have sufficient quality funds to required to have with them to fund to go on lending to customers, that is required fund RSF versus ASF. Available stable funding amount is available with the bank for stable funding, that is available stable funding versus required stable funding RSF. I have an update in Basel III about this NSFR. I will be again conducting this Basel III class for risk, credit and all people. It is very important for risk people to understand the Basel III completely. So I will be telling you more. Okay. So there are some updates regarding Schedule 2 of Reserve Bank of India Act. What is Schedule 2 of Reserve Bank of India Act? Can anyone tell me? This is the last slide of the session. So if someone has an idea about Schedule 3, can tell me what is Schedule 2 of RBI Act. What is that Schedule 2? Schedule 2 talks about, yes, commercial banks. No, not only scheduled commercial banks. There in Schedule 2, every bank is listed. Those who are listed are called scheduled commercial bank. Those who are listed as cooperative banks are called scheduled cooperative banks. Okay. Exclusion of Allahabad Bank, Andhra Bank. So my first interview in a lateral entry segment, I was asked a question: are cooperative banks are scheduled banks? I said no. Then he told me to revisit this RBI Act. Okay, so don't tell that our cooperative banks are not scheduled banks. They are they are listed in second schedule, and they are also SCBs, but they are scheduled cooperative banks, and the second SCB is scheduled commercial bank. Am I right? You should have, if you are preparing for a lateral entry exam, you should have your basics clear. Only this one question may decide either you are in or out. Okay, some silly questions may decide either you are in or out. In tough questions on Basel 3, etc., even bankers who are retiring are not aware of it. Okay, even risk officers are not aware of complete Basel 3 norms. They keep on checking the documents available with them. Okay, we don't expect our bank interviewers don't expect to be thorough in such things, but you should be thorough with silly points with normal basics of banking. And those who are top subjects, you can refer the document at any time, but to refer any document you should have the basic idea what to refer. Okay, like everything is available in Google, everything is available in Google, but the point is you should know what to type in the search bar. Okay, so there many people fail. You should know what to type and where to find the real knowledge. Okay, so there are some updates. Some banks like Allahabad Bank, Andhra Bank, Syndicate Bank are now excluded from second schedule of RBI Act. Why they are merged? They are no more existing in India. Okay, and there are some other banks, yes, there are some other companies like Westpac Banking Corporation is seized to have banking license. Under which section they were seized the banking license of Westpac Banking Corporation? Under subsection 2 of section 36A of Banking Regulation Act. Okay, and remember Aditya Birla Idea Payment Bank Limited, his operation is also seized. Okay, this is as per subsection 2 section 36A of Banking Regulation Act 1949. Okay, thanks for joining me. Thanks. If you have any doubts, you can we are running late. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in group. We will have a healthy discussion about banking updates in our group. So if you have any doubts, anytime you can share. If you are reading something, you can also share with others. Okay. Thank you all. Thanks. Welcome you all. Okay. Welcome. Okay, great.